this going to work? Yeah. Okay. I'm going to start there. Get this up. Go to me. Go. And where are we here? Okay. So I started on this a little while ago when it came out. I guess this was like last week or the week before. This report. Okay, so when this report came out, I thought it was kind of interesting because it was like the structure of it was very amenable to being put into this tool that I've been working on probably for the last 9 years, again, almost to the day. I can't remember exactly when I finished it, but this tool is effectively, it's a structured argumentation tool, and both legislation and analysis of legislation is very amenable to it because there's effectively three kinds of entity in this system, which is a thing called IBIS, issue-based information system, that's been was invented by a guy named Horst Riddle back in the late 60s, early 70s. He had colleagues, different names are on different papers, but so this was a thing that was done on index cards. And in the 80s, there was an attempt to digitize it, and there have been subsequent attempts since. My contribution has to do with making this kind of system permeable, so that and also the individual elements are directly addressable. So what we're looking at here is we are looking at an analysis of the analysis. The document, Cybersecurity Will Not Thrive in Darkness, Critical Analysis of the Proposed Amendments in Bill C-26 to the Telecommunications Act. So handily, Dr. Parsons has created this report in such a very handy structure. So in the first sentence, 30 concrete recommendations, which, if we look at the tool, are these things here. Oops, there. And then there's particular clauses that they reference. And so we can say, like, a bill, and especially our bill, that amends a bill, every clause maps almost perfectly onto the concept of a position in IBIS. Now, in IBIS, the three entities, so the issue is like a thing in the world that either needs something done about it or you otherwise steer around. So that's the pink entities here. Positions are the green ones, and a position is what to do about it. And then the blue ones are arguments, and the arguments are why. There's currently only one argument in here. So if I look at in the case of these amendments or the recommendations, I just put them all down as sort of like R01 through R30, and this is sort of a nascent structure. I have not, I've yet to really delve into the rest of it, but the actual legislation itself, the relevant aspects of the legislation, which have been cited in the document, I've also put in as well. The blue arcs are these generalizes and specializes relationships, and they get displayed in a hierarchy. And the in the center is always going to be the one that you're looking at. So that's another sort of contribution of mine on this IBIS thing is to actually make each issue, position, and argument into an actual like addressable web page that you could refer to, thus enabling it as well to identify it with different parts of different documents. So, you know, for instance, if we go to the legislation, where is the legislation? Here's the legislation. No, this is the legislation. So we don't actually even know if these are, well, maybe they are. Let's take a look. So if we were to just check and see if this is, if it has a identifier or not. Okay, yeah, so we've got IDs in here. In fact, if we just said document query all star ID. Oh yeah, okay, so we've got IDs in here. If we were to look at them, yeah, okay, so the H2 good. Because that'll enable us to, in the case of, okay, so, oh no, that's the extent of it. That's too bad. Unless we can just see. So that's on our government in Canada that these things are not directly addressable. But we could imagine, I think on the actual main legislation it is addressable, but we could just put a link to that there. There's like text anchor identifiers that one could use, but at any rate. So what I'm going to do is, since I've already gone and loaded in a previous session, I've gone and loaded the recommendations in. So each section with the recommendations cites, if you actually go to the, where did I put that? Here. So each recommendation cites a, like, you know, there's the sections in the document. And so we can relate the recommendations to the clauses, or rather, we relate the recommendations to issues raised by the clauses. The clauses themselves are necessarily there to address certain issues as well. So you can imagine a sort of deliberative or structured argumentation context where, you know, you have an issue and then you respond to it with the position that happens to be a clause in a piece of legislation or regulation. Then you have issues that the community raises with the clause, and then you have recommendations against the issues that have been raised by the and so those terms and positions as well. And then the single solitary argument in here. An argument is kind of like, I found with the data vocabulary that an argument is kind of like a, what do you want to call it? It's like a, it's like an issue, except with the added sort of valence that like it's being used to justify a position one way or another. So there's like a little, it's like an issue with extra stuff attached. At any rate, so let's get back to the text. I think I'm losing it here. Okay. So let's just take actually a look at, let's go back to the overview. It's easier to look at there. This thing, by the way, hugely very prototypey. It is a, so RO1 responds to, just do like a recap here initially. Where, so this is part of the text. In fact, this we can link. This we can actually go. Should get the online version of it. That went. Okay. And so recommendation 1. What did I say? Necessity. And it's over. Yeah, okay. So this is a quote from the section on analysis. So we can go actually just into the URL. What do we call that? 12. Is that 12 or is it? Oh, I see. It was not actually. Analysis. Okay, so it was 20. No. Why is none of the okay. It is 12. If I go to 12. Okay. Whatever. Unless there's like a direct. This is why URLs are good. URLs are nice. Interesting. Where are we here? I'm losing it. Okay. Oh, right. Got a lot of tabs open, folks. Okay, so we can just put that, the link to the PDF there. So if we wanted it back, this is a prototype. I would put some other thing in there that, okay, so 12 is actually 4. So does that mean, so it looks like it's actually a lie. Put the other one in. Just nuke that. There, okay. So, I mean, part of the notion, part of the idea behind this thing is that, again, like everything that can be pointed to directly can be pointed to directly. And so I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go to the next recommendation and I'm just going to like look at like what the issue was, and then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to connect the issue. And so you can see actually that the so what we're looking at, so the point in the center is the thing that we're looking at. We're going to, I mean, I'm still working on the visualization for this. But yeah, the point in the center is the thing that we're currently looking at, which is also replicated by the text in the lozenge. And then these are the relations that are, again, echoed by this pink guy and this yellow guy there. So this issue is an issue that's been suggested by the section 15.1.1 of the proposed amendment. And then the response is the recommendation. So we've got this effectively topological structure that's getting created through this process. So I'm going to proceed to, I'm just going to look at recommendation 2. I'm just going to jump there. My focus with this tool really has been the data and the exchangeability of the data and the addressability of the data and the identifiability of the data. And, you know, I have my own sort of like stylistic takes on the representation of that, how that actually looks on the screen. But the actual prototype itself was like initially created for like very mundane, very boring reasons that had very technical sort of underpinnings. And this kind of thing was a bit of an accident that turned out to be a little bit more useful. But the actual code implementation of itself is pretty sclerotic. I'm going to drop kick it out the window soon enough, and it's going to be replaced with a better one. But anyway, okay. Orders should include a reference to timeliness. So let's just go back to this. Recommendation 2. So we are talking about, since the legislation lacks a provision that private organizations will provide with a reason. Okay, so well, there's, come on, buddy. It's not your day to do this. Okay. Oh yeah, it's right over here. That's why I had that all set up in different windows. So this responds to what we just said. And then this is actually been suggested by the position, what was it, 1511A? Does this go over here? 1511A, 1511B. Yeah, so we respond to 1511A. Okay, it's also suggested by 1511B. I guess we'll just put it on 1511. Hey, there's only, because there's only one in A and B and 1511, so we can get rid of 1511A. And it was also, what was it? 1522, 1521, 1522. So just maybe those are 1521, 1522. Suggested by connect existing. We're gonna get a better friggin' design for this. That's ridiculous. That's 1521A. Let's just put 1522 there. Because we don't have a 1521. But you can see the shape of the thing is starting to sort of, well, I mean, it's absolutely changing. When you look at the overview, it's going to be different. So, what's interesting about this, though, is what I found, at least, is some of the first stuff that I did with this, like way back, was help somebody basically analyze a collective agreement in a union situation. And we put all the clauses down as positions, and then we sort of said, okay, well, what are the issues with these things? And then we can sort of, you know, the whole idea behind structured argumentation is the structure. And you get kind of a shape out of it that's kind of becomes a little bit, you know, it eventually becomes intelligible. Okay. So this is also 15.2.1. Okay, 15.2.1b. Because I don't have a 15.2.1, do I? Well, whatever, we'll just attach it. I don't have a 15.2 one. Let's just add a 15.2 one. Where is the act? The other thing this thing does that I have not added yet is concepts, which are not they're not issues, they're just concepts. And, oops, let's create new, suggested by. So that's just the heading for 15.2.1. I'm just going to fix the white space because it's a little bit chunky. Okay. And then this is generalizes 15.2.1. Generalizes 15.2.1b. Okay, so when did I put right? So this we can get rid of. We can attach 15.2. What did I say? Lax provision, yeah. Lax provision, blah, blah, modify the practices. So we can add 15.2.1. Just going to be at the, oh. I can't remember. Put the little section guy there. Yeah, it's interesting. We've got two of these. Oh, because I already had one in here, that's why. So this is 15.2. 2. This is 15.1.1. 15.2.2c. Okay. Well, okay, we can get rid of this. We can get rid. Right, because 15.2.1 is attached to that. Yeah, okay. And I'm just going to go ahead and delete that broken one. Now, I intentionally made it so you can't delete stuff. So you gotta cheat. But Deletion is kind of a problem in, there we go, systems like this, because like just, you know, you want to have a memory of everything that ever happened, and so to delete something is, it's kind of a, it's just a conceptually kind of problematic thing. Like, you're gonna, like, well, did you really delete, especially something as tiny as these, the actual data in this content is just microscopic, and so, like, it's not like it's anything to keep it around. And so, you know, if you're going to delete something, you're going to be pretty intentional about it. So anyway, okay. So let's go to 3. So, all right. Some of the specific activities that private organizations may be directed to perform. 15.2. Okay. Well, I mean, this is an issue, right? Oh yeah, oh great. So this is already an issue raised. And so the position that responds to this issue is R of 3. Ooh. Let's just clean up the text on that. Maybe I was drunk when I, no. So, I mean, we can see a progression. I'll just go back to the central again. You know, with these responses, you know, we can see this progression from an issue. Wait a second. So we got a position, which is 15.1.1, and we got 15.2.1. And then the issue that it raises, which, sorry, no, what this is. What did I just do? 15.2.1. Yeah. So we could say we'll just hate. Okay. So oops. Go back to here. So we can actually go to 15.2.2G. There's 15.2.2G. And this suggests the issue of this. And this is a specialized version of okay. So again, we'll look at the top down. And So, yeah. Downstream security challenges. So there we go. That 1522G. Right. So yeah, under 1522G. Go. We can see that that connects to 1522G. And anyway, the point of this is really to, yeah, structure argumentation. It's all about the structure. And the idea, like the way that I kind of see this thing being used is that rather than a, rather than a 51-page report, like I could imagine, let's say, a journalist, for instance, like, I mean, I don't know if the linking policies in news outlets are a little bit, I mean, the extent to which regular news links to anything ever is kind of amusing, but like I could imagine, so this is an isolated issue, it's an isolated addressable issue in the report. And you can even, for example, have, like if I was, and I do this in my own work, is I use this tooling for the design rationale. I mean, we might generally, the reason why I made this, aside from the reason why I made this was a mundane technical thing. And then like once I had it, I actually started using it for actual work on projects. And like, the idea is that this statement has an address and it has semantic relations with the item in the actual proposed legislation and the and it has other aspects of it. So like this is like when you create a document like this and you just type it out in Word or something. I mean, this was InDesign eventually, but prior to that it must have been some kind of word processor. Where are we here? Yeah. So one could conceivably say this is a link. You click on this link, it goes to here, and you can actually see the underlying structure of the argument as it was proposed in the document. That's sort of the idea. And so you could imagine a tool like this is a support infrastructure for writing documents like reports like this, because you would go through and annotate. So you basically would go and you put the you put the clauses of the legislation into the thing, and then you go and say, well, these are the issues that we can immediately see with this. And then you put that into the structure, then you manipulate the structure until you'll get like, you can click around and then you get the shape of the arguments. Now this again, you can kind of see like how these, so these are all, remember, these are all the 30 recommendations in this sort of butterfly fan shape here. And over here are the clauses in the bill. And you can see that some of these things have been started to be attached, and the red ones are the sort of a fuchsia actually. They are the response to the issues that are raised. So what ends up happening, you can actually see this structure. So this is whatever it is. This is 1522. This is 1521. This is 1511. and you can, so this is on this side is the bill and on this side is the recommendations, and now these recommendations are starting to get knitted in to the structure. And so if I go along, what's going to end up happening is that this entire sort of butterfly structure is going to get embedded into, and it's going to create sort of it's going to sort of invert, the structure is going to start to invert, where you're going to have the bill at the top, at the center. This is a polar thing. So the bill is going to be at the center with all of the clauses, and then the clauses are going to have their bits, and then the clauses will have the subclauses, and then those will raise issues, the issues will raise positions, and so on. And so what ends up happening, is you get this kind of hierarchical structure eventually, quasi-hierarchical, I should say, because it's a little bit more than a hierarchy. But yeah, so I'm probably going to continue with this over the weekend. I'll stream it on and off. But I got a thing I got to go into in 3 minutes, so I am going to call it there. So yeah, whoever watched it or is watching it later, hope that was